live on stage. The sound
of Orlando.
So, is they ready? The sound
of Orlando.
You know?
Yo, what's going on, party people? What is going on? You're back with the Sound of Orlando show. I am your boy, Rome. And bruh, I cannot wait to bring on my next guest. He's doing some legendary stuff for the culture, pushing it forward. But I want to shout out our sponsor of this evening, which is my man, Jesse Jazz, not only a legendary promoter, legendary DJ in the city, but he also is a legendary graphic design artist. If you need any printing, please hit up my brother Jesse Jazz at 5 Star Graphics. You know what time it is now. Our next guest, man, he is continuing to push the envelope with this thing of ours called hip hop. Between him and Nori, they have been able to just present this collection of real stories with real people over some drinks, and they call the show Drink Champs. Obviously, legendary people on the show. It's just a completely amazing thing that they put together. You can find them on Revolt TV, YouTube, what have you. And it's just an amazing thing, man, because when you're talking about this particular time in music history and in just life history, right now it should be all about the conversations. We need to talk to each other more, and they're providing an avenue for that. So without any further ado, the legendary DJ from MIA 305, man. Give it up for my brother. One time for your ass. The one and only DJ FN. Let's go.
What up? EFN. My bad. Yeah. All yes. Good. You mentioned Jesse Jazz. I want to say shout out to the legendary Jesse Jazz. He's a Florida mixtape brother in arms, and that's fam, yes. and he's definitely a legend, a mixtape legend as well.
Yes, man. Jesse Jazz, man. He's the truth, man. Known the brother for decades, and he's just continuing to kind of reinvent himself over time, man. So shout out to Jesse Jazz. Now, I know we're pressed for time, so let's get right into it. Talk about what it was like for you to get into hip hop, and what brought you into this world to become a DJ. I always love having my DJs on to talk about what DJs go through, because I know we speak with the turntables, but a lot of times people don't realize what we all go through to be a DJ. So talk about how you got into hip hop culture, became a DJ.
Just being a young kid, loving music, growing up. I was born in Los Angeles, but grew up in Miami, Florida. So I had like different influences. I'm Cuban American, so I had Latin influences. So just music is a part of my life growing up, and loved it, man. And so once I got to a certain age and rap music started like coming through into my life, basically, with amongst other music that was happening at the time, it just spoke to me in a different way than the other music that I was listening to. And I love all music.
Right.
But what was different about hip hop to me and rap music at the time, because first I heard it as just rap music, not understanding the greater culture at the time.
Right.
I'm a little kid. And so, break dancing, getting into graffiti, didn't even know I was doing the elements of hip hop, because it was just a part of life at that age. And so as I got a little older, junior high older even, which is not even that much older, but as I got a little older and groups like NWA and Public Enemy hit the scene, at least for me, those groups just spoke volumes to me and showed me a side of rap music that I hadn't seen at the time, which was the emotion being conveyed and the messages being conveyed. And I was like, man, this is powerful. Right. And then I realized that this is the music, all the other generations and the older folks had music from their generation that marked their time. I was like, hold up, this is the music of my generation. And that's what really like influenced me to be like, nah, I'm gonna pay attention. I'm gonna get involved. Locally at the local level, see what's going on. and I just became that's it. I was a total hip hop head from that point on, and you know, and then in that scope, just peeping like the early music videos and seeing anything, you know, seeing any visuals of it. I always saw the DJ in the background, and that's the person in the group dynamic or in on the screen in terms of hip hop that really, you know, called, you know, attention to me. And I was like, man, that dude is really the dude that's controlling it all. And then, you know, you start to early on understand that the DJ is the foundation of everything hip hop. So I was like, I want to be that dude, you know, controlling, you know, the energy in the room in a party or in a club or at the skating ring or whatever. And you know, and the one who's backing up the MC, but you could tell that's the guy. And so I wanted to be that. And just, you know, I was a broke kid that couldn't afford turntables. So I was using 2 tape decks to create early mixtapes and pretend I was DJing until eventually I was able to cop my first turntables. And then that's how I got into hip hop, and that's how I got into DJing.
Dope, man, dope. So what was it like, you know, cutting your teeth in Miami at that time, DJing, and talk about that scene of the development of what it was to be a DJ.
So, you know, in the late 80s, early 90s, I'm being exposed to dope ass DJs like, you know, DJ Laz out here and you know, like the ghetto style DJs and Sugar Hill Gang DJs and these sets and the dance hall DJs that were wilding out. And in fact, some of the only places we could actually hear hip hop was going to like dance hall parties. Right. You know, in those days. So I, you know, as a DJ from Miami, I was well versed. I could kill it on a reggae dance hall set as well. Right. So, you know, Miami bass music, dance hall, hip hop, it was all a part of, you know, what it was to be from Miami. But in terms of like what people would call quote unquote boom bap hip hop or rap, you know, that we weren't known for that down here, down south, specifically in Miami. And so I was seeking out like-minded folks that wanted to kind of like rep the city on a lyrical tip. And not to say that the other stuff didn't rep Miami. That's all a part of Miami. But this is what the lane that I'm really into. Right. Because, you know, I'm listening to Rakim and you know, and I'm listening to Coogee Rap at the time, and Master Ace and stuff like that. King T from the West Coast and Compton's Most Wanted and Common and all that stuff. So you know, this is what I'm trying to get from Miami, and this is what I want to like really see coming out of Miami. And so that early on, it's like a small group of maybe a few thousand hip hop heads in Miami. We literally like knew each other in a sense, you know, at least by sight. I would say it was akin to being like the goth kid in school. You knew all the goth kids by the way they looked, and they all grouped up together. That's how hip hop kids were in the early 90s in Miami, at least. And I'm sure in a lot of other cities. Right.
So it was like that out here in Orlando. I
mean,
you knew who the hip hoppers were, and you knew who the sound of the Miami bass sound. We all dressed in our ways to kind of distinctly separate us so that people knew what we represented. But and I love what you just said about that, seeking it out, because once you heard that, it was hard to unhear that. Like you wanted to hear more of it. And there was so many people out here that, you know, like I'm talking about in Orlando, and I can only imagine from Miami, that wanted to hear it, but maybe a lot of places weren't playing it. And so we had to make those places. Shout out to DJ Khaled and the Hitmen. They were out here. All the hip hop parties, DJ Nasty, all those beginnings in Orlando, they were the ones throwing the hip hop parties so that we could all hear hip hop in Orlando. And so talk about that and how that was for you.
So some of the early stuff that or events out here for hip hop heads were done by Zulu Nation.
Wow! Shout out to Zulu Nation.
Yeah, who were very active and now the art district of Miami, Wynwood, which back then was just straight up the hood. You know, shout out DJ Raw and all these guys out there that were running the streets out there, affiliated with Zulu, down with Zulu, and they were, you know, throwing events. And there was a bunch of other promoters and cats that were doing it. But it was all, you know, Zulu was kind of like the center of it all at one point. And they would throw, you know, park jams and and bring the first time we see artists coming from New York would be through Zulu. And shout out to some homies that from my hood, Plan Beats, that were also doing a lot of stuff. And so it was you had to seek it out, but it was there. And the thing is, one of the things that was problematic early on that I noticed was, and I'm sure in Orlando is the same thing, there was a large influx of New Yorkers that had moved down. And so a lot of the hip hop was being brought down through these New Yorkers that were moving down. But the problem with that was that they were with the identity of New York. So it kind of made people think that the hip hop scene was a New York scene. And that's the problem we had in Miami. They're like, oh, you guys are New Yorkers. And so mind you, I'm a kid that was born in LA, raised in Miami, proud to be from Miami. Some of my friends are from all over the place, New Jersey, which in that time frame, New Jersey and New York couldn't be furthest apart. Like they were worlds apart in that era. People from Miami itself and just other parts of the country. And we were just like, yo, man, we're not New Yorkers. And I have friends that were from New York, that same mentality, like we just hip hop heads. So one of the things we were struggling to really get across was a Miami hip hop identity, because at the time there was a hip hop, but it was like a New York hip hop identity in Miami. And we was trying to fight that, not to diss New York, but just to carve our own identity out. And that was like the early mission statement for me and my crew and a lot of people coming out of Miami in the early 90s.
Man, that's so dope that you say that. And I don't think it's said enough, because when you hear a lot of these conversations about hip hop outside of New York and the early beginnings, you rarely hear this story enough, and how a lot of the New Yorkers came down here, felt like we were slow, and there was also a disrespect when it came to the natives, and that put even more of a divide and made people feel like, well, fuck that, we're not gonna play that shit. Not because it's not dope, not because we didn't respect it, but because of the attitude that came along with it, like we were somehow less than you guys, and we did hip hop just as well, if not better in some scenarios, out here in the South. We just had our own sound to it. Shout out to, that whole Luke movement, the Luan Loves, the Home Teams, the
Poison
people that
Clan.
were Poison Clan, people that were putting it down. We were dealing with that same thing in Orlando. Like, for a lot of people, they loved hip hop, but they felt like, if you're gonna come out here and make us feel like with some fools, we want our own sound. And there wasn't that many places to kind of get that, but like I said, shout out to Nasty, shout out to Khaled, Caesar, like they were able to have those events so that people could showcase the sound of hip hop in Orlando, thus the Sound of Orlando show. Talk about how you got into this idea with the Drink Champs. It seemed like it was kind of like, the seatbelt idea, like it, we need seatbelts. And then all of a sudden, it's like, yeah, we need seatbelts. Like we didn't know we needed this, but we needed it. And it talk about how that came together and what was the idea? How did it start?
So again, another long story I'll try to condense for you. And the Drink Champ story is pretty interesting because it has two parallel stories of origin in a sense. There's the name, that's one story, and then there's the actual me and Nori doing a show together story. So Nori moves down to Miami after he did the reggaeton album that he did, right?
Right. Shout out to Nori.
Shout out to Nori, man. And of course, legendary Noriega of CNN.
Yes.
So he knew I wasn't a big fan. Although I'm Latino, I wasn't a big fan of reggaeton. He knew that.
Shout out to all my Latinos that do not listen to reggaeton, do not listen to salsa, merengue. We're in our own lane. There's a lot of us. So shout out to all y'all that are not stereotypical in the sense that we're all doing the same shit. We hip hoppers too.
Right. And you look, I'm not mad. I'm proud of what these guys have been able to carve out, and and Latin music and reggaeton has become some of the biggest music in the world right now.
In the world, right? Absolutely.
Right. So and partially thankful to Nori as well for introducing it to the States, which I don't think he gets enough credit for. But at the time, and I'm still not a huge fan of it, but I was definitely not a fan back then because as a Latino, one of the other sides of me that I'm repping is I want to gain respect for Latinos in hip hop as well. So
talk about it, brother.
We're fighting for that respect in the industry. And then comes this reggaeton stuff that I felt was kind of like going backwards for us, you know, where we were doing something that was kind of I don't even know the words to put it in, but it just didn't seem like it was what I wanted, at least. You know, I wanted MCs. I wanted straight up MCs doing their thing and flexing what they do. I wanted big puns, Cypress Hills, Fat Joes. You know, that's what I was looking for. And
right. And you just said something. Let's stop right there. You just said something that's so serious because the big puns, especially the big puns, he had just kind of went platinum. We got all this vibe going on. First Latino in hip hop to get, you know, a platinum record, and it's so huge. And we're like, okay, we're ready for more. Like, because we came so far. I was just talking to Betty from Sweet Sensation about the idea of what it was to not to be absent of hip hop for so long. We were like in the background, so we were doing the engineering, we did DJing, we did all these other things. You know, I'm a Boricua. We were there, but we weren't there in the forefront. So when freestyle and club music came out, Latin hip hop came out, it was like, okay, well, we can actually be in the forefront. Well, now we got the big puns. Now we got all these other artists doing their thing. And so it was like, damn, finally, we got some representation. Shout out to the Beat Nuts. You know,
right.
And then
definitely tell it to Beat Nuts.
You know, and then all of a sudden it was like, boom, we got reggaeton, and now we're going, to your point, okay, now we're separating again instead of uniting. And for a lot of people, it just seems like reggaeton was the replacement to not listen to hip hop versus kind of us all listening to hip hop in the same direction. But I love what they're doing in reggaeton, so salute to all of that. It's you don't hear that talked about enough.
This is the thing, and I don't want to go too far on a tangent off of our original subject, but I had some insight because I went early on to Puerto Rico and was exposed to reggaeton before it really got big and met some of the key players. And what bothered me the most is that a lot of the guys that did reggaeton were ill MCs.
Yes.
That were just ill hip hop MCs that just felt like this was their only avenue. They had to do dance music to get it popping, to make money. And that's basically what ended up happening and how the beginning of reggaeton kind of started, in a sense.
Right.
So that's the part that bothered me the most. But mind you, so going back to the story, Nori moves back to he moves to Miami, not Pat. He moves to Miami. He comes to me. He's like, basically like, you know, and I'm paraphrasing, you know, bring me back to hip hop, because he knew I was a hip hop head. Like, he considered me like a purist, sort of say. And he's like, bring me back to hip hop. So he moves close to my studio and he starts working out of my studio. I put him down with producers and engineers. Our engineer for Drink Champs, Hazardous Sounds, I introduced them, who produces a lot for Nori now. Put them in the studio together. They're working day in, day out of my studio. And out of those studio sessions, we get a homie of ours, of Nori's originally, that had he ran 66 Raw at XM Radio, Leo G. He's like, yo, you guys want to do a show on satellite radio? Right. And we were like, yeah, sure, whatever. He's like, so we ended up doing this weekly show on satellite, on XM before the merger. Right. And then after the merger, Sirius XM, we were still on there. We did it for like 3 years. And it looks and sounded just like Drink Champs. We introduced ourselves the same way. We drank Tiger Bone. We drank a ton of liquor. We just didn't have as many guests because we were down south in South Miami and Kendall, to be exact. Not too many artists were coming down to check us at that time. Right. But, you know, we had some guests every so that's the beginning of us doing a show kind of like Drink Champs, like the beginnings of that.
Dope.
At the parallel of that, my crew in and around those studio sessions, we were drinking all the time. Guys were smoking. If you couldn't handle your liquor, we would say, yo, you're not a drink champ. You're not a drink champ. I'm a drink champ. And so you could go back years and see the hashtag that I was putting, drink champ, drink champ, drink champ, before Drink Champs was anything. And I love the way that rang. And I didn't know what it would be, but I was like, man, I wonder if anybody owns the .com. So I grabbed drinkchamp.com and drinkchamps.com. So when Instagram came around, I grabbed drinkchamps.com. I grabbed the Twitter. I mean, the @drinkchamps. I grabbed the @drinkchamps Twitter. and you know, trademarked it, copyright, did all that stuff years before I knew what it could be, what it would be applied to. I was like, it could be merch, it could be maybe a bar called Drink Champs. Who knows what it could be? Right. So fast forward, we stopped doing that show. Nori goes on tour with Pone. They put out an album. They go to Europe. I go on tour. I was managing a group called Mayday, which this plaque right here is with Kendrick Lamar, a track they produced. We go. They get signed to Tech Nine. They go on rigorous tours with Tech Nine. So I'm busy with them. We both get busy.
Shout out to Tech Nine and Kansas City. I used to live there for 12 years.
Absolutely, man. Amazing people. You know, Tech is the homie. So, you know, we both got busy. We stopped doing the show. And mind you, we didn't get paid for that show either. We just did it for fun. So years go by, and I get introduced to the whole idea of podcasting by a homie called Godfrey he had a podcast called Gamer Tag Radio, local homie out here. He's doing it really big in the gaming world. And he's like, yo, you should do that show you did with Nori as a podcast. And I was like, podcast, you think? He's like, yeah, you can do it whenever you want. You can do it as long as you want, as short as you want. Put it out whenever you want. Just put it out. So when I start bringing the idea to Nori, he wasn't up on podcasting like most people in hip hop. And if you were up on it, you thought it was just some nerd shit that people did on computers. That's that nerd internet shit. So it took a while. It took a couple years to get him on board, and different things happened. And we almost did it with Combat Jack's people, and we almost did it here, and we almost did it there. And then finally, Nori, he did Tax Stone's show, and he came back from that show saying, "Yo, I think I'm ready, man. I think I'm ready to do this podcast thing." And I had all the Drink Champ stuff already done, and I ended up doing a logo with a famous graphic artist as my homie, MC as well, Scam, who did shit for Eminem, Tribe Called Quest, Beats Rhyme and Life album cover. He has joints with Eminem. Like he's from Carroll City, and he's an underground legend as well. And so Scam, I had him do the artwork, the logo, the Drink Champs logo. And when Nori was ready, I said, "Yo, I got it. Let's call it Drink Champs. I got the logo. Let's go." He's like, and Nori's like, when he's ready, he's ready. So he's like, all right, let's call it Drink Champs. Let's go, boom. And then I ended up getting introduced to people at CBS Radio, which we did the distribution with, and then we did the first 2 pilot episodes. We had to show them what it was going to be, which was Kenny Anderson was the first one, Fat Joe was the second one we recorded. We put out Fat Joe as the first episode, and it was an out the box hit, and the rest is history.
Dope, man. That's the way you described it. I mean, I know you had to condense it, but it's so descriptive in that sometimes all it takes is one little idea here and there, and you don't know what it looks like in the end. You just know you got to do something with it.
Right.
And inevitably it morphs into this whole other human being. Did you think you would be on Revolt TV and all of this,
No, I mean, the crazy shit is I started doing this documentary series called Coming Home, hip hop documentary where I travel to different countries. And the first one I did, where I went to Cuba, I licensed it to Revolt. When they launched, it was the first original acquisition when they launched the network in 2013.
Wow.
And so by the time Drink Champs got on, I had already licensed to them, and they had aired 3 of the films already. So I had a relationship already with Revolt, but going back to your original question, I never in a million years thought Drink Champs would pop the way it popped. I never thought we'd be doing it 5 years later. Right. I would have if you would have told me that Drink Champs would be the phenomenon I was going to be, and that was going to inspire a whole new lane for people to get revenue, in the culture. Right. I would have never thought it, man. But it's dope, and I love it for our legacy.
Well, and the conversations that you guys have on there is just, incredible. It inspires people to have real conversations with people, because, you're a human being. You see what's going on here. For a lot of people, it is a lot of fluff. A lot of people say what you want to hear. A lot of people, will only say whatever they're saying based off money. But you guys built an environment in which, most boys, they buy a bunch of bottles, kicking it at home, and they're having a conversation, and you just so happen to be recording it. I think that's completely to your point, what it did for the rest of the world, that will go down and Infinite. You know what I mean? Just
Very true.
based on that, bro. It's an amazing thing that you guys did and put
Thank
that
you.
together. And Nori, his personality is so that show.
No,
You
it's
know,
perfect. It's a perfect platform and vessel for him.
Right. He didn't even know it. You know what I mean? Like,
he didn't know it.
You didn't know it. Talk about some of the things that you see in hip hop right now and moving forward that are either inspiring you or kind of worrying you, if you will. How do you see hip hop in 2021 with all of this COVID going on? And once it clears up, do you see like an orgy of performances, like just this nonstop? You know, once the gates are clear, once we get the green light, is everybody going to be out there, and are they going to start reinventing the sound that we're currently listening to right now?
Yeah, I mean, that's a loaded question for like a 5-hour podcast, to be honest.
Right. But you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, look, am I worried? Of course I'm worried. You know, I'm worried for the culture. I don't like ageism in the culture, and maybe I'm in a position to say that now because I'm older now, and so it's a thing. I understand it, but you know, I just feel like there's a disconnect between the generations that I was hoping, and I think that, and sometimes Drink Champs has helped to fill that gap.
Right, to kind of bring the young and the old,
to inspire each other. Like we should be inspiring each other, the old and the new, you know. And I don't believe in ageism in the sense where when it comes to art and being a creator that there's an age cap on it. Like there's no cap on that. Like on creativity and art, you know. And if you want to do it for fun, do it for fun. If you want to make money out of it, then figure it out and you know, and you keep doing it. But you know, I really feel that the OGs, you know, in the old generation needs to be better mentors to the youth. And I think
that part.
And I think we need to understand that we, at some point, we dropped the ball and we allowed there to be a gap. And it's our fault to an extent that maybe, and the other thing too that worries me the most is older guys and guys and girls, OGs, pandering to the youth, trying to act youthful.
Man,
yo, these kids don't give a fuck about, you know, they already see you as an old man or an old woman. Like you pandering to them ain't gonna make you relevant or cooler to them.
Nope.
But what's gonna make you relevant to them is us acting our age and enjoying life and being comfortable in where we are in life now, because it'll show them that they have a future to be like that as well.
Right.
And that's what bothers me when we pander and we're trying to be relevant in our age. Not to say you can't like new shit. I'm not saying that at all. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying pandering and trying to make yourself relevant and youthful for the sake of it. That to me is corny. That shouldn't be the way that we should do things. I think we need to have more mentoring in our approach to things. And I also think as a culture, we just need to be more introspective and understand the ramifications of the things we do and say in the music, because a lot of people are getting hurt out there. And it's not new. The reality is it's not new. People have been getting hurt, you know, within the world of hip hop, whether directly because of the music or not, since I can remember, you know what I'm saying? And it's just now it's more in our face with social media and stuff. And people are doing it for the gram sometimes, unfortunately. So we just got to be better mentors, man. And then one of the things that I've learned traveling and seeing hip hop develop and how it's developed in other countries is, man, it's just bringing it back to its like what it's all about, like, which is being, you know, it's doing it for being a creator, for the art form, like, you know, just like stripping it down of what it's of trying to like acquire money from it. Of course, we get it. Everybody, we all want to make a living, man. It goes without saying. Right. But you know what I'm saying, when you just do it just for that, things start to go, go wrong.
Right. It's like, you know, the art becomes what the art is being bought for versus the art just being the art. Right. You know, it's like Basquiat doing a painting of money. You know, we know it's valuable. We don't need him to paint money. Right, you know, and so yeah, man, that's some real talk, man, because at the end of the day,
if you don't mind, I
Right.
want to say because oftentimes I'll talk about this stuff, and I'm not in no way trying to say that I've been an angel in my life, and that I didn't,
No.
you know, me and my crew weren't talking some shit and doing some shit, you know, at a certain, and you know, when we were younger, but that's the thing. You live, you learn, you experience, and you try to pass down that information. Hey, maybe you don't have to make these mistakes. And I don't think
Right.
we do that enough as we get older, at least in hip hop. Maybe it's starting now again, but we need to see ourselves as a cultural family, not even just in the United States, but internationally. We have a lot of power if you unite ourselves. And like,
Right.
if we want to galvanize it and make movements, we could do so much, man, so much good as well.
Right, and I just want to, you know, say that last part, which is, you know, when we're talking about the OGs being mentors. Well, they have to, in a way, stop being bitter about what the kids aren't doing based on what they like, because there's a lot of bitterness, and then the kids become bitter. It's just like being a parent, right? You know, if you're on your kid about being young, at some point he ain't gonna want to talk to you.
Right.
And so there's a lot of that. Like, these kids are out here, they do want to listen, but they also are like built different. They're all listening based on whether you respect them or not. So if you don't respect them and what they want to do, they're not going to listen.
And if you're consistent enough, because it's just like raising a kid. Your kid's gonna act like they don't listen to you, but if you stay consistent and keep instilling the same morals or whatever teachings you're trying to give them, when they get to a certain age, they say, yeah, I remember my parents talking to me about this, and then it kicks in at a certain point. But if they saw that you stopped it and you switched up, that ain't gonna never be instilled in them.
No, man. And especially, you know, sometimes you get better, you get farther with sugar than you do with salt. And so for a lot of these people, when they're actually talking to these kids, they're talking to them from an angry place. From, oh man, if it was me, you know, or you shouldn't be doing it like that, like you fucking it up for us and all of this stuff. But in reality, we were just like them. We didn't want to hear from our parents. We wanted to, you know, we didn't want to do what the older people were doing. Once we knew hip hop, it was like, nah, this is ours. We're doing it our way. And so we have to be able to kind of at least understand that for the kids, so that they're able to be like, okay, I get it. What say you, OG? And that shit goes a long way, because like I said, there's a lot of great people out there that will listen if you respect them. And
absolutely,
you know, it normally ruins the conversations on many levels for anybody in any kind of life. You know, if you don't respect someone, you're not going to listen to them. So I think, to your point, we would be better off, man. I can't wait for that moment to hip hop finally unites in that way, man. We need that anyway. Yeah, but yeah, man. I know you're on a time schedule, man. I don't want to keep you too long. Man, it's been such an honor to have you on. You're always welcome on the show.
Appreciate you.
You know, you're speaking to our city in Orlando, man. It's a beautiful thing. And we love what you guys are doing down in Miami, man. And we're rooting for you, man. Keep that thing going, and just, you know, continue to evolve and grow, bro. We
Thank you, man. And I gotta say real quick, Orlando holds a special place in my heart, because for my indie record label, it was Nasty and Pro Style, the first DJs to play our music on commercial radio and in the club before even our own city played it. And it was in Orlando back in the days. And then so ever since then, we've been going and doing shows out there since forever. And Orlando just holds a special place for me.
Man, once again, man, honor, man. You're always welcome on the show. Let's stay in touch, man, and continue doing your thing, brother.
Absolutely, man. Let's do this every so often.
Yes, sir, brother. Once again, give it up for DJ EF Ed, man. Drink champ, man. Let's go. Yes. So glad to have him on the show today. Busy man, but he took out time to come on the Soul Show tonight, man. And man, I'm just so grateful, man. All of the people, all the beautiful people that are coming on the show and just telling their story and talking to our city in a real way, man. What more can you say, man? What more can you say? Shout out to all of my peoples out there, man. Once again, our sponsor of tonight is The Comparable. Jesse Jazz with his 5stargraphics.com. If you need printing, please go check this man out. He is one of a kind, and he'll blow your mind. And this is our time one time for my people there. Sound of Orlando show. Thank you for joining us tonight, and we look forward to having you again, man. You already know what time it is, bro. Love y'all. Let's go.
Live on stage, the sound.
Orlando.
So, is they ready? The sound.